Good evening and welcome. Tonight I invite you to lay back, find comfort beneath your blanket, and let your eyes drift softly closed as we journey far away, across centuries, to a time of emperors and marble columns, silent suffering beneath golden grandeur. The air is warm, it's almost heavy, filled with the mingled scents of olive oil, baking clay tiles, and distant wood smoke from kitchens preparing bread at dawn. In the distance, you hear the low murmur of voices, faint clatter of wheels over stone, and the sharp rhythmic call of a taskmaster driving his workers forward. Imagine yourself walking along a dusty road under the bright Mediterranean sun, their silent endurance and the daily rhythms that defined their existence. With segment 1, why you wouldn't last a day as a Roman slave. Your nose fills with the faint aroma of barley porridge, slowly thickening. Your arms ache as you grind wheat with a heavy stone quern, its surface worn smooth from generations of slaves before you. Then we will drift deeper into the story of Spartacus, who rose against these chains. In the darkness, tools are gathered. Simple iron hoes and wooden rakes. It bakes your shoulders and neck, leaving skin cracked and red or darkened over years into a leathered resilience. Often, it is merely bread and water. For some slaves, the midday meal is eaten while squatting beside the fields, dust swirling around each bite. Sweat trickles down your spine, caught in the folds of your simple tunic. The sun sinks behind distant hills, painting the sky in gentle shades of orange and purple. Yet there is little time to admire such beauty. Tasks continue into the evening, carrying water, feeding livestock, cleaning tools, until at last, you return to your pallet. There is a little water to ease the thirst. A quick sip here and there, and food is equally sparse. A world of silent endurance under Rome's grandeur. Let your mind drift back through that ancient world. Some weep softly, others stare blankly, minds already drifting to the next day's burdens. For you accustomed to freedom and comfort, a single day would feel like an eternity. For them, it was eternity itself, stretching unbroken until age, disease, or punishment ended their service. You walk to the fields barefoot along narrow dirt paths, the soil cool and damp against your soles. Your task is to work the land from dawn to dusk, tilling, planting, weeding, or harvesting, depending on the season. There is no time to stretch or savor waking. Your day belongs not to you, but to another. The world is still dark and silent. Save for the shuffle of tired feet on cold stone floors and the rustle of thin linen garments being adjusted in haste. You rise not from a soft bed, but from a straw pallet, rough and uneven, its musty scent clinging to your hair and skin. You continue to labor under the watchful eyes of overseers, each holding a staff or whip as a silent reminder of what failure or defiance might bring. You might be ordered to carry double loads or endure lashes across your back, the leather biting into sunburnt skin, leaving ridges of pain that throb long after the punishment ends. Others may be branded, forced to carry permanent marks of ownership, and glimpse the glittering lives of the Roman elite in contrast to such bondage. Runaways caught are sometimes fitted with heavy iron collars inscribed with their master's name, an unbreakable reminder of their place. Explore the buried villas of Pompeii. Tonight we will immerse ourselves in the lives of Roman slaves, their unending labors. You light small oil lamps, careful not to spill the precious oil, and sweep the stone floors clean of any dust gathered overnight. The broom is little more than bundled reeds bound with twine stiff against your palms. Let us begin, slowly and calmly. Imagine waking before the sun has even hinted at the horizon. The chill of early morning air seeps through the open gaps in the walls, brushing over your bare arms as you stand. If you are a household slave in a grand domus, your first duty is to prepare the home for your master's awakening. In the kitchen, under the stern gaze of the villicus, the household overseer, you kneel beside the hearth, coaxing embers back to life with gentle breaths until the first flames lick the underside of a bronze pot. For field slaves, the morning begins even earlier. You rise under a sky scattered with silent stars. The sun soon rises, and with it, the heat. Imagine a meal of barley bread, hard and coarse, dipped in sour wine to soften it, perhaps accompanied by olives, if the estate is generous. As the day lengthens, your body grows heavy with fatigue. Yet there is no pause beyond these small breaks. You lay upon the straw, staring into shadows cast by flickering lamps, listening to the quiet breathing of other slaves nearby. Punishments for mistakes or resistance vary, but they are swift and harsh. At dusk, your arms feel like iron bars, your feet swollen and raw. The night is your only solace. Imagine the rhythm of such a life. Rising before the dawn, serving endlessly, receiving little, and sleeping with dread of tomorrow's sameness. And so, as you breathe deeply now, picturing those quiet stone halls, the glow of small lamps, and the slow fading of another day, let your body relax. And now, let us drift softly from the quiet toil of anonymous slaves to the story of a single man whose name echoes through history, a man born into bondage who rose briefly, brilliantly, against the might of Rome itself. His name was Spartacus. What is known is that he was eventually sold, his freedom stripped away, transported to Italy and purchased for the gladiator schools of Capua. Imagine, it is around the year 111 BCE in the region known as Thrace, near the borderlands of what is now Bulgaria and Greece. The air there is crisp and scented with mountain pine, carrying the distant calls of birds that nest among rocky cliffs. Imagine the night of their flight. Shadows flickering in torchlight as they crept to the kitchen, seizing knives and skewers in place of swords. Slaves from nearby farms began to join them, drawn by hope of freedom. Their numbers swelled from dozens to hundreds, then to thousands. Their hearts would have pounded in unison, steady rhythm of fear and hope as they slipped through the barracks and out into the cool night air, and women sitting close together against the chill night breezes, sharing bread, roasted chestnuts, and cautious laughter. They sent small forces, easily defeated by Spartacus's growing army. Others suggest he intended to continue raiding, sustaining the rebellion indefinitely. Spartacus fell in battle, though his body was never definitively identified. In death he became legend. Travelers would have walked or ridden past this somber avenue of silent suffering, a grim reminder of Rome's power and of the fate that awaited those who rose against it. His motives remain a quiet mystery lost to time. Dust curling beneath wagon wheels, the sun rising slowly to bathe each cross in golden light. The rebellion had ended, but the story of Spartacus endured. It's whispered through centuries as a quiet symbol of courage against impossible odds. Heavy mist curling around shield edges, muffling the shuffle of sandaled feet across churned earth. Spears bristled in the pale light like reeds by a winter river. Spartacus rode among his men, sword drawn, silent and resolute. His face was lined with exhaustion, his hair darkened with morning dew, yet his gaze was steady. He proved himself a skilled leader, organizing his followers into disciplined ranks, dividing spoils fairly, and punishing looters who threatened local communities. Crassus built fortifications, trenches, and walls to trap the rebels in the southernmost peninsula. Supplies dwindled. Desertions increased. Spartacus, refusing surrender, led his remaining forces into a final, desperate battle. For many, it was the first taste of freedom they had ever known. It is here that Spartacus is thought to have been born, not into slavery, but as a free Thracian, perhaps even trained as a soldier in his youth. Little is known of these earliest years. Historians disagree on whether he was a mercenary, a deserter, or merely captured during Rome's constant expansion. Imagine yourself in that school. The ludus surrounded by high stone walls topped with iron spikes. The smell is a mix of sweat, leather oil, and damp straw bedding. Training begins at dawn. The hours were long and bruising. The sound of practice weapons striking shields echoes endlessly, punctuated by sharp grunts of exertion or muffled groans of pain.
Ow.
The slaves trained not for survival, but for spectacle.
Ow.
They were to become entertainment for crowds who demanded blood with their bread. You stand barefoot in the sand, the cool grain shifting beneath your toes, gripping a wooden practice sword as the lanista. The trainer barks instructions. Spartacus trained here, alongside dozens of others, learning the ways of the sword, shield, and net. But Spartacus. He was not content to die for amusement. In the year 73 BCE, alongside around 70 other gladiators, Spartacus plotted escape. They fled to Mount Vesuvius, which even then loomed silently over the surrounding countryside, its slopes covered in vineyards and oak forests. There, they gathered their strength. Imagine the camp upon the mountain. Rough shelters made from branches, smoky fires burning at dusk. Men. Rome was slow to respond, underestimating what they saw as a rabble of escaped slaves. For nearly 2 years, Spartacus led his army through southern Italy. Some say he planned to cross the Alps and return home to Thrace. But Rome, humiliated by their defeats, finally sent Marcus Licinius Crassus, a general of immense wealth and ruthless ambition. Imagine that dawn in 71 BCE. The final clash was brutal and swift. Roman discipline overcame the weary rebels. The survivors, around 6,000 men, were captured and crucified along the Appian Way, the road from Capua to Rome, each nailed to their own rough cross, lining the route for over 100 miles. As you lie in stillness now, imagine that ancient road stretching ahead of you. Breathe deeply and let your mind rest in the silence of that distant time before we continue. To the next part of our journey. Now, let us leave behind the clang of swords and the dust of rebellion, and drift further south, towards a peaceful city frozen in time. Imagine. You are walking along a narrow Roman street paved with dark basalt stones, their surfaces worn smooth by centuries of footsteps and cartwheels. The morning air is fresh and scented with laurel and lemon blossoms drifting from nearby gardens. At dawn, shopkeepers roll open their wooden shutters to reveal neat rows of pottery, bronze lamps, and delicate glassware shimmering softly in the early light. The sky above is clear and blue, though far in the distance. Mount Vesuvius rises in quiet majesty, its slopes softened by vineyards and olive groves. You are in Pompeii, a bustling port city near the Bay of Naples, filled with merchants, artisans, freedmen, and slaves. The faint scent of beeswax drifts from polished wooden chests lining the walls, their bronze fittings dulled by time. But today, we will slip away from the forum's chatter and into the villas, the grand private homes of Pompeii's wealthiest citizens. Imagine stepping through a tall wooden doorway beneath a painted lintel, worn letters spelling out a greeting to guests. Imagine stepping into its quiet shade, hearing the soft hum of bees among rosemary and lavender bushes. Slender cypress trees line the tiled pathways, and small marble statues of household gods, the Lares, stand in quiet, guardianship near flower beds edged with terracotta borders. The first room is the atrium, open to the sky with a rectangular pool or impluvium in the center to catch rainwater. The walls here are painted with scenes of daily life. Fishermen hauling nets heavy with silver-scaled catch, merchants weighing out goods, women weaving at upright looms. A deep rumbling shook the earth. Vesuvius erupted with a thunderous roar, sending a towering column of ash and pumice miles into the sky. Roof tiles cracked under the weight. Walls collapsed under falling debris. Fires burned, fed by broken oil lamps and overturned braziers. Darkness fell over the city by midday, lit only by the red glow of molten rock pouring down the mountain's flanks. Some curled in sleep, others clutching loved ones, frozen forever in the silence of catastrophe. The ceiling is dark wood, beams carefully joined, scented faintly of old resin. Hear the splash of fountains in hidden courtyards. Feel the cool mosaics under your bare feet. In these lost villas of Pompeii, life continues to whisper through painted walls and tiled floors, telling quiet stories of daily rhythms, of gardens and dinners, of a world that ended in a single breath, yet lives on in the stillness of buried time. Light streams down in golden shafts, illuminating painted walls in deep reds and ochres, with delicate floral designs or mythological scenes. Venus rising from the sea, each step echoing softly in a home untouched for 2,000 years. The lamps are lit, small clay bowls with floating wicks, casting a warm amber glow. Imagine the wonder of early archaeologists as they uncovered frescoes still brilliant with cinnabar red, discovered jars of preserved olives in cellars, and found marble statues staring up from volcanic soil with calm, unblinking eyes. Slaves bring dishes of salted fish, olives, lentils cooked with herbs, and bowls of fresh figs drizzled with honey. Diners recline upon cushions, speaking softly of business, poetry, or the movements of the stars. Somewhere in the distance, water trickles gently from a fountain in the peristyle garden beyond. A bronze ink pot rests upon the corner, the surface greened with age. On the walls, portraits of ancestors watch silently, their eyes dark and steady, their togas draped in folds that suggest dignity and solemnity. Bacchus crowned with grapevines. Mars gazing sternly in polished armor. The floor beneath your feet is cool mosaic tile, small tesserae arranged in intricate patterns of swirling leaves or geometric borders. You hear the quiet rustle of household slaves sweeping or arranging oil lamps upon carved stone stands. Walking through the tablinum, the master-esque study, you see a wooden writing desk holding wax tablets and styluses, alongside scrolls neatly tied with red ribbons. Beyond lies the peristyle, an open courtyard garden surrounded by columns. In the triclinium, or dining room, 3 couches sit arranged around a low table. Imagine sitting upon one of these couches as an evening feast begins. And then, in a single day, it all ended. It was the morning of August 24th, 79 CE. Imagine the suddenness. The choking clouds of ash filling every street, drifting through the open atrium, covering the mosaics and gardens in silent gray. Within hours, Pompeii disappeared beneath meters of ash and pumice, entombing these villas and their daily lives in perfect stillness. 17 centuries later, in the mid-1700s, excavations began. Today, walking among these ruins, you can see the plaster casts of those who perished, their final moments captured by ash. But as you listen tonight, focus not on their end, but on their life. Imagine the faint scent of olive oil and fresh bread wafting through shaded colonnades. Let your breathing slow now, as if you too are walking through those hushed hallways. Now, let us drift from the silent villas of Pompeii to the lives of those who walked its mosaic floors in silken sandals. The Roman elite. Imagine yourself awakening in a grand domus in Rome itself, the capital of an empire stretching from the wind-swept moors of Britain to the golden sands of Egypt. The sun is rising, its first gentle rays filtering through the latticed windows, illuminating walls painted with delicate floral garlands and scenes of mythic beauty. The air is cool, scented with burning incense that curls in thin trails above bronze burners. Together you recline upon couches in the atrium, discussing matters of law, philosophy, or political gossip, words carrying concepts of duty, virtue, and fate. A philosopher might quote Seneca or Cicero, their teachings of stoic acceptance and moral discipline. Drifting through the cool, shaded air like the scent of rosewater sprinkled upon stone floors. Voices are soft and measured, echoing beneath the painted beams of the ceiling high above. You eat slowly, savoring each taste, while a slave boy fans away the gathering heat of noon. Slaves move silently through the room, pulling back linen curtains. Laying out garments of fine linen, the path is paved with small river stones, cool under leather sandals. Water spills from the mouth of a bronze lion into a shallow basin where lotus flowers float, their broad green leaves trembling lightly with each ripple. Their steam rises in hazy clouds, scented with pine resin and myrtle oil. Warm water soothes tired limbs, while attendants massage fragrant oils into your skin, their hands firm yet gentle. Tall cypress trees cast slender shadows across flowering beds of lavender, thyme, and rosemary. Lie upon fine linen sheets, the cool, smooth fabric caressing your skin, drifting into sleep with the taste of honeyed wine lingering faintly upon your lips, and the knowledge that tomorrow will bring the same gentle rhythm of ease, power, and silent luxury. Outside, the city hums quietly, a soft murmur of distant voices and footsteps upon stone. Marble statues stand among the greenery, gods, nymphs, and heroes carved with serene expressions, or a lyre player strumming soft, mournful melodies that echo across the dim room. Conversation flows lazily, weaving between reflections on literature and playful jokes. Punctuated by murmured laughter and the clink of cups upon bronze trays, a slave brings wax, tablets, and ink, setting them carefully before you. You spend an hour reviewing accounts, rents collected from tenant farmers, trade profits from ships recently returned from Alexandria laden with papyrus, glass, and cinnamon. Imagine entering the triclinium, the dining room. Its walls painted with scenes of Dionysian revelry, ivy and grapevines curling around dancing figures. Slaves enter silently, bearing trays of roasted lamb seasoned with garlic and coriander, platters of oysters with sharp vinegar dressing, bowls of lentils flavored with cumin and mint. Wine is poured, strong Falernian, sweetened and mixed with water, fragrant with herbs or honey. Bronze lamps are lit, casting a warm golden glow that flickers upon cups of carved glass and polished silver plates. The gentle scraping sound mingling with the distant calls of merchants setting up their stalls in the streets beyond your courtyard. And soft wool, dyed in rich shades of deep red, soft purple, or pale cream. The fabrics are smooth beneath your fingertips, woven so tightly they feel almost like silk. You rise and sit upon a carved wooden stool as a slave girl combs your hair with an ivory comb. Breakfast is light, perhaps fresh bread drizzled with honey, goat cheese sprinkled with herbs, and a small cup of watered wine, cool and tangy upon your tongue. You sit upon a low stool in the peristyle garden, watching morning light dance upon the broad green leaves of fig trees, while birds flit among flowering oleanders. Afterward, you might walk to your study, where scrolls line wooden shelves in neat rolls, bound with red or blue cords. By mid-morning, you prepare to receive guests. Friends arrive in tunics of fine weave, their hair oiled and curled into fashionable styles. Imagine the rhythmic cadence of Latin as ideas flow gently from one speaker to another. At midday, a light meal is served. Fresh figs, dates, salted fish wrapped in grape leaves, small loaves of bread, and bowls of olives glistening with oil. In the afternoon, you might stroll through your private garden. The gentle trickle of a fountain soothes your mind. As evening approaches, you prepare for the cena, the main meal of the day. You recline upon a couch, propped against soft cushions embroidered with geometric patterns. Entertainment is provided. Perhaps a poet reciting verses of Virgil in gentle, measured tones. Later, some guests retire to the balneum, the private baths. Finally, you return to your bedchamber, where lamps are extinguished one by one, leaving only the faint glow of embers in a brazier. You close your eyes. You're breathing deep and calm. Let us continue. Drifting now from the quiet villas and echoing halls of the Roman elite, the air here is thick with the mingled scents of olive oil, human sweat, dusty wool cloaks, and the faint sweetness of ripe figs being sold at nearby stalls. Voices rise and fall around you, merchants calling out their wares, the clink of bronze coins changing hands, and the low murmur of buyers inspecting goods. 2. The bustling, sunlit chaos of a very different place. Imagine yourself standing upon wide flagstones warmed by the morning sun. A magistrate oversees proceedings to ensure taxes are collected and disputes avoided. Slaves are displayed upon raised stone platforms, the catasta, so potential buyers can see them clearly. You are in the slave market of Rome. They stand there, silent, dressed simply, often with just a tunic or a cloth wrapped around their hips. Greek slaves trained in literature and philosophy might become tutors, living within wealthy households and educating patrician children in language, rhetoric, and moral philosophy. Their lives about to change with the raising of a hand and the clink of coins into a merchant's strongbox. Some have been transported by sea, enduring weeks chained in cramped holds, seasick and cold. Occasionally, a buyer purchases mother and child together, but often they are separated. The child sold to a different household, perhaps as a playmate for wealthy children, or as a small servant to carry baskets through the market. Their quiet tears are ignored, absorbed into the hum of daily commerce. Dust swirls in golden motes as feet shuffle, and sandals scrape stone. The auction continues. An old man with calloused hands from years of vineyard labor, a boy with bright eyes trained as a stable hand. Merchants tally their coins, while the remaining slaves are led back to holding pens to await another day upon the catasta. The air cools, carrying the scent of evening fires being lit across the city. For the slaves, tomorrow will bring the same fearful anticipation, the same silent prayers that their buyer will be kind, or at least not cruel. A woman with needlework skills evident from calloused fingertips. Others arrived on foot, herded along dusty roads from distant provinces, conquered by Roman legions. The quiet efficiency of the Roman slave market, the rustle of tunics, the clink of coins, the calm, detached transactions that changed lives forever. Her buyer leads her away through crowded streets, past market stalls, selling figs and chickpeas, past beggars holding out chipped bowls, past temples where priests murmur morning prayers. Each step takes her further from the catasta, deeper into a life of quiet, unseen service. Others are bought by estate managers, returning with cartloads of supplies and newly purchased laborers tied together with rope at the waist. Beautiful youths, both male and female, might be purchased as personal attendants or concubines. He lists each person's age, skills, health, and origin, pausing only to sip watered wine from a small clay cup. Buyers bid in low voices, raising fingers subtly to signal their price. There is no excitement here, only the quiet efficiency of a transaction. Strong men from Gaul or Thrace are bought for hard labor in mines, or on great farming estates called latifundia, where they till endless rows of grain beneath a searing sun. Around each neck hangs a small wooden placard, a titulus detailing their origin, age, skills, and health conditions. Some placards declare no defects, while others list ailments with careful honesty. Poor vision, weak constitution, injuries from previous labors. Here, beneath a broad wooden awning supported by sturdy columns, hundreds gather each day. The market is structured, regulated by the state. Imagine the heat rising from the stone beneath their bare feet. Listen to the murmured judgments of buyers drifting softly through the morning air. Strong arms, but too old for quarry work. Teeth are good. This girl might serve in the kitchen. He knows Greek might educate my son. Slaves with special skills fetch high prices. Imagine the fear within each silent figure upon the catasta. The auctioneer speaks calmly, his voice steady and practiced. Children stand beside their mothers, small hands grasping worn tunics. Imagine a slave purchased this morning. A young woman from the eastern provinces, her dark hair braided neatly, eyes lowered to the stone at her feet. As the sun climbs higher, the market grows hotter. Some slaves are purchased by traders to be resold elsewhere, taken to other cities or distant provinces where demand is higher. As the afternoon wanes, the market quiets. Buyers drift away, their business complete. Imagine the silence that falls as dusk approaches. The broad awning casts long shadows across empty platforms. Breathe deeply now, and let these images settle gently in your mind. Let your breathing slow. Whereas we prepare to continue our journey into another unseen corner of ancient Rome, let us drift now from the crowded noise of the slave market into the quiet, often unseen world of child slaves in ancient Rome. Imagine, it is dawn. The sky is pale gray, and the air carries the cool dampness of early morning. Da-da-da-da-da-da. He has been a slave for as long as he can remember. Some children were born into slavery, the sons and daughters of household slaves. Others, like him, were sold into bondage by impoverished parents, or captured in distant lands and brought across seas and roads to this place. Within a grand Roman household, a child stirs from sleep upon a straw pallet laid upon the hard stone floor. The clay jar is cool against his chest, rough at the rim where the glaze has worn away. The broom is nearly as tall as he is, its bound reeds scratching across the marble pathways. The sun filters through fig leaves overhead, casting dancing patterns upon his shaved head. His tunic is simple and belted with a thin cord. The soft slap of his bare feet upon stone is the only sound accompanying the sweep-sweep rhythm of his task. Imagine him sitting cross-legged upon mosaic tiles, quietly holding carved wooden dolls or clay animal figurines, waiting for the master's daughter to decide which game she wishes to play. Their days filled with small labors, their nights with fleeting dreams. Lives lived in gentle shadows beneath the grandeur of marble columns and painted halls. They rise before dawn to carry clay pots, stack amphorae, or turn millstones alongside older slaves. Their small fingers are nimble, ideal for sorting herbs, cleaning lamp wicks, while threading fine cords through beads and jewelry workshops. The air smells of cooling stone and lingering wood smoke from kitchen fires. His small hands are roughened from carrying water jars and sweeping. His eyes close quickly, heavy with exhaustion. Around him, the quiet breathing of other slaves fills the darkness, a lullaby of weary souls. Their shoulders grow strong, long before adulthood, and their backs curve with early labor. The scent of roasted lamb and garlic drifts around him, making his stomach twist with hunger, though he has already eaten his own small meal of barley porridge earlier. They are treated with casual affection by fellow slaves. who whisper lullabies to them in shared quarters at night, or press kisses to their foreheads when no overseer is watching. But they still know that punishment is swift and often unfair. Dreams of warm bread given freely, of his mother's voice singing him to sleep, of running barefoot upon green grass outside city walls. Dreams that vanish each morning as he wakes to another day of small tasks and silent obedience. A dropped cup, a clumsy spill of oil upon the kitchen floor, a tear in a master's garment. These small mistakes bring sharp words and sometimes lashes across thin shoulders. Sometimes a kindly guest will slip him an olive or a piece of cheese from their plate, placing it in his small hand with a secret smile. Other times, he is ignored entirely, treated as little more than a silent extension of the table's service. If he plays well, with gentle humor and quick obedience, she will laugh and praise him. If he frustrates her, she might slap his cheek lightly, or worse, tell her mother, who will instruct the steward to punish him later. He learns to walk carefully, watching each step upon smooth marble floors that can be slippery with morning condensation. The blanket covering him is thin and worn soft with washing. There is no gentle call to wake, no mother's hand smoothing his hair. Instead, the quiet shuffle of older slaves passing by signals it is time to rise. This boy is perhaps 6 or 7 years old. His tasks are small but many. Imagine him carrying jars of water from the kitchen cistern to the atrium, each trip making his thin arms ache. In wealthy homes, child slaves often served as playmates to their master's children. At mealtimes, he stands beside the dining couch, ready to refill cups of watered wine or carry away empty dishes to the kitchen. Imagine his afternoons spent sweeping fallen petals from the peristyle garden. Child slaves assigned to craft workshops or merchant stores have a different life. For children born into slavery within a household, life is often slightly easier. As the day fades into evening, the child lies upon his straw pallet once more. Imagine his dreams. They're simple. Let your breathing slow now. As you imagine the quiet world of child slaves in ancient Rome, we will continue soon. Deeper into the hidden lives of Rome's countless unseen servants, let us continue, quietly now, into one of the darker corners of Roman life. A place not often spoken of in gentle company, yet woven silently into the fabric of daily existence, the punishments endured by slaves. Imagine the morning sun, rising over tiled rooftops, its golden light falling upon peaceful courtyards and flickering oil lamps. Within these graceful spaces, behind painted walls and shaded colonnades, there existed also a silent threat, a knowledge each slave carried within them like a hidden stone pressing upon the heart. Roman law viewed slaves not as people, but as property. They could be bought, sold, inherited, and punished at the discretion of their owners. Punishments varied greatly. Some were intended as correction, others as warnings to deter rebellion or flight. Imagine a slave in a bustling kitchen, dropping a fine glass cup upon the marble floor. The crash echoes through the chamber, silencing the rhythmic chopping of herbs and the scraping of bronze pots. The vilicus, the household overseer, steps forward quietly. He does not raise his voice. Instead, he instructs the boy to hold out his hand. With a thin rod of olive wood, he strikes the small palm swiftly. The pain is sharp but brief. The boy bows his head and continues his work, tears slipping silently down his cheeks. This was a mild punishment, a reminder of vigilance for more serious offenses, theft, repeated laziness, talking back to master's punishments, or harsher. Imagine a strong man caught stealing a small sack of flour to feed his family. His master orders him whipped. In a quiet courtyard beneath a fig tree heavy with ripening fruit, the punishment is carried out. The whip is braided leather, weighted. At the tips with small lead knots, each lash lands upon sun-darkened skin, raising welts that sting beneath the hot sun. There is no shouting, no dramatic spectacle, only the calm efficiency of discipline being administered, while other slaves continue their tasks nearby, their eyes lowered to avoid witnessing what they cannot change. Runaway slaves faced the harshest consequences if captured. Some were fitted with heavy iron collars, inscribed with their master's name and the words "Hold me, lest I flee." Imagine the cold iron encircling the neck, resting upon collarbones, its weight a constant reminder of servitude. Others were branded upon the forehead with the letter F, marking them forever as fugitives. In extreme cases, especially where a slave had harmed or killed their master, a Roman law dictated that all slaves within the household could be executed. This was rare, but records show it did occur. The punishment served not only as retribution, but as a grim warning to all others within earshot of the empire's unyielding power. Yet it is important to remember, punishment was not constant. Many slaves went about their lives with quiet diligence, avoiding harsh discipline through obedience and skilled service. Some owners were known to be fair and reluctant to punish, guided by Stoic philosophy or Epicurean kindness. Others delegated discipline entirely to stewards or overseers. Maintaining distance from such grim necessities of control, there also existed incentives woven among punishments. Good service could bring rewards, better food, lighter tasks, or even manumission, the granting of freedom. Masters might promise eventual freedom to loyal slaves, who then lived with hope glimmering quietly within their daily labors. As the sun sets upon these memories, imagine the quietness that follows punishment. The hushed courtyard once more filled with the rustle of brooms, the soft splash of water jars being carried to kitchens, and the rhythmic thud of kneading bread dough upon wooden tables. Life continued its careful pace, each slave moving with silent knowledge of rules, rewards, and consequences. Breathe deeply now, and let these images settle softly within you. The quiet severity of Roman punishment, administered with calm detachment, part of a system that governed millions, woven into the silent routines of daily life, we will continue soon. Into yet another hidden facet of this ancient world. Now. Let us drift gently from the quiet shadows of punishment into a different realm of Roman life, a realm scented with burning incense, echoing with solemn prayers, and filled with the soft flicker of lamplight against marble altars. This is the world of Roman religion, and within it, slaves held many unseen yet essential roles. Imagine yourself standing within a grand Roman temple at dawn. The rising sun sends golden shafts of light through tall columns carved with twisting acanthus leaves. The stone floors are cool beneath your feet, scattered with rose petals left from yesterday's rites. The air is heavy with the rich scent of frankincense and myrrh burning in bronze censers, their smoke curling upwards in pale ribbons towards the shadowed ceiling. Here, in this sacred space, priests conduct daily rituals to honor the gods, and, assisting them, moving quietly among the altars and offerings, are temple slaves. Some were born into temple service, dedicated as children by pious parents fulfilling vows. Others were purchased by temples to serve the gods. Their duties were many and varied, woven seamlessly into the rituals that governed Roman spiritual life. Imagine a temple slave at dawn, carrying bronze jugs of water to cleanse the altar steps, their bare feet making soft slapping sounds upon polished stone. The water is cold, scented lightly with crushed bay leaves or rosemary. He pours it slowly, watching it trickle over carved floral motifs into small drainage channels along the floor. Other slaves prepare offerings, laying out baskets of ripe figs, clusters of grapes, golden loaves of freshly baked bread, and bowls of olive oil. Their hands move with calm precision, arranging each item upon the altar with quiet reverence, is careful to avoid any clumsy noise that might disturb the solemnity of the space. Some temple slaves tend the sacred fires, keeping embers alive throughout the night so morning rituals can begin without delay. Imagine the warmth of those coals against chilled fingers as they blow gently upon the ashes, coaxing thin orange flames to rise and flicker once more. In certain cults, female slaves served priestesses directly. Then the temples of Vesta, dedicated to the goddess of hearth and home, attendants known as atria assisted the Vestal virgins. They swept floors, tended lamp oil, and prepared simple meals for the priestesses who guarded Rome's eternal flame. Outside grand temples and smaller household shrines called laurea, slaves also held ritual duties. Each morning, a household slave might enter the atrium carrying a small cup of wine or a handful of incense to pour or sprinkle. Before painted images of the household gods, the Lares and Pinides, murmuring quiet words of offering on behalf of the family. During funerals, slaves carried torches to light the way through dark streets to burial grounds. Some sang laments in low, mournful voices, their notes drifting softly into the night air, mingling with the sound of weeping mourners. Others prepared the body, washing it with warm, scented water, dressing it in simple linen shrouds, and placing a coin upon the tongue to pay Charon, the ferryman who carried souls across the silent river Styx. Imagine these quiet labors, each action performed with gentle care, unseen by most, yet essential to the smooth continuation of ritual life. Slaves did not merely serve physical needs, they also upheld the spiritual rhythms of Roman existence. On festival days, temple slaves assisted in great public ceremonies. They carried sacred statues upon decorated platforms, their steps slow and measured to the beat of drums and flutes. Flowers fell from balconies above as crowds cheered and scattered petals across paved streets. For the slaves, it was a day of intense duty, each movement watched by priests, magistrates, gathered citizens, as night descends upon these memories. Imagine the temple in darkness, its bronze doors closed and barred. The only light flickers from a few small lamps kept burning near the altars. Within this silent space, temple slaves rest upon straw pallets behind colonnades, listening to the quiet hiss of dying embers and the distant rustle of laurel branches. Swaying in midnight breezes, let your breathing deepen now, as you picture the solemn calm of Roman temples, the scent of incense, the cool echo of marble halls, the silent footsteps of slaves tending to gods who never spoke, yet ruled every aspect of life with invisible power. We will continue soon, to glimpse the lives of those who rose against such fate. Let us continue, leaving behind silent temples to return to the rugged hills and dense forests where freedom was fought for, day by day. Imagine yourself among the army of Spartacus, not in the moment of fierce battle, but in the quieter hours. Between fights, when daily life resumed its harsh but hope-filled rhythm, the camp sits upon a gentle slope of Mount Vesuvius. Smoke curls softly from small cooking fires scattered among rough shelters made of woven branches and animal hides. The morning air is crisp, scented with wood smoke, damp earth, and the faint sweetness of crushed pine needles underfoot. Slaves gather around each fire, warming their hands before beginning their tasks. Some men sharpen stolen swords upon flat river stones, the slow rasp of metal carrying through the camp. Others oil leather straps or mend tunics torn during raids. Women knead barley dough, shaping flatbreads to cook upon iron plates set over glowing coals. The smell drifts gently across the hillside, warm bread mingled with roasting onions and wild herbs gathered from the slopes. Children, too, are here, playing quietly with carved sticks or smooth pebbles, watched over by older women who sit weaving baskets from thin willow branches. Nearby, young men practice drills with wooden staves, their movements guided by former gladiators who bark instructions softly, urging precision and strength without wasting breath on praise. Imagine the quiet conversation as rebel leaders meet near Spartacus's tent. Their words are low, discussing Roman troop movements, foraging routes, and defense plans. Spartacus listens calmly, his eyes thoughtful beneath tangled dark hair, his face lined from years under sun and hardship. His presence brings a steady confidence to the camp, a sense of purpose that binds this unlikely army together. Food is always scarce. Rations are shared fairly. Boiled lentils thickened with wild greens. Roasted goat when hunts succeed, or dried figs for quick energy. Before a march, water is fetched from nearby springs, carried back in clay jugs upon strong shoulders. Each mouthful is precious, savored in silence, or shared with a quiet prayer to any god who might be listening. At dusk, fires glow brighter against the darkening forest. Shadows flicker across faces lined with fatigue and resolve. Songs rise softly. Into the night, old Thracian laments, Gallic war chants sung quietly to preserve strength, or whispered Roman prayers from those who still carry gods within them despite newfound rebellion. Imagine yourself lying upon a simple bed of pine boughs. In woven rush mats, looking up at a sky scattered with sharp stars, the ground beneath is cold and uneven, but freedom warms the spirit. Round you hundreds sleep lightly, weapons within reach, hearts beating with mingled fear and hope. This was their life, an army built not only upon defiance but upon daily endurance, discipline, and the small comforts of firelight, bread, and quiet company under the silent gaze of distant stars. Asterisk, and now. Let us leave the rebel camp and drift back in time, to the very place where Spartacus's journey towards rebellion began. Imagine yourself within the walls of Ludus, a Roman gladiator school. The sun is just rising, casting pale golden light across tiled roofs and tall stone walls, lined with iron spikes to prevent escape. Inside, the air is already filled with the rhythmic thud of wooden practice swords striking shields, the grunt of exertion as men lunge and parry, the scrape of sandals upon sand-packed ground. The smell is strong: sweat, oiled leather, damp straw, and the faint acrid tang of iron weapons stacked against stone walls. The day begins before dawn. Gladiators wake upon simple straw mattresses laid side by side along the sleeping hall. Their first task is to wash quickly at the stone trough in the courtyard, splashing cool water upon tired faces before gathering for roll call. Trainers Lanista inspect each man, noting injuries, bruises, and signs of fever. Any unfit to train are sent to the medicus for herbal poultices and rest. The rest is rare and often short. Training fills the morning hours, imagine. Holding a heavy wooden sword, its weight pulling upon aching shoulders as you strike against a wooden post. The payless again and again. Each swing is observed by the trainer, who corrects your stance with quiet taps of his staff. Feet must remain grounded, knees slightly bent, back straight, strikes swift and controlled. After drills, compared sparring matches. Two men circle each other in the sandy arena, bare feet moving softly, eyes sharp. Blows are delivered with precision, designed to train reflexes rather than injure. Around them, other gladiators watch silently, learning by observation, the quiet. Punctuated only by occasional words from the trainer instructing technique or criticizing wasted movement, midday brings a meal. Imagine bowls of barley porridge thickened with bean flour, slices of dark coarse bread, fresh dates or figs if the school's owner is generous. Gladiators are prized investments, fed well to maintain muscle and stamina. Wine is watered down, just enough to quench thirst without dulling focus. The afternoon returns to training, some practice with net and trident, swirling the weighted net in wide arcs before thrusting the trident's iron prongs towards straw dummies. Others drill with curved scimitars, their movements quick and sinuous. Feet shuffling softly upon sand as blades whistle through the air, between drills. Men rest upon benches, rubbing oil into bruised muscles or rewrapping leather grips upon sword hilts. Conversation is sparse, voices kept low, each man locked within his own thoughts of survival, of freedom, of the roar of crowds in the arena that waits beyond these walls. As dusk falls, oil lamps are lit along the colonnades. The glow flickers upon painted murals depicting scenes of Neptune's horses or Mars in victory. Supper is simple: more barley porridge, sometimes stewed lentils with herbs, always filling but never indulgent. At night the men lay upon their straw mattresses once more. The air is heavy with fatigue and the faint sweetness of crushed reeds. Outside, the city quiets beneath the stars, while within the ludus, silence reigns, broken only by soft groans of aching bodies shifting upon the floor. Imagine falling asleep here, your hands still curled as though gripping a sword, dreams filled with the sound of cheering crowds, the glare of sun upon sand, and the silent knowledge that each day brings you closer to the arena's iron gates. Breathe deeply now. The rhythm of training and the quiet resolve of these men soothe you, as we prepare to continue our journey deeper into the lives woven beneath Rome's grandeur. Asterisk. Let us drift now to the quiet, hidden world of women slaves in ancient Rome. Their lives, often unrecorded by history, unfolded in the soft shadows of marble halls and bustling marketplaces. Imagine the cool, dim interior of a wealthy Roman household at dawn. a young woman rises from her straw pallet in the servants' quarters. Her linen tunic is simple, tied at the waist with a thin braided cord. She moves silently, slipping through dark corridors towards the kitchen, where fires are already being lit for the day's first baking. Her duties begin with grinding grain at the heavy stone quern. The rhythmic scrape of stone upon stone fills the kitchen, mingling with the soft crackle of flames and the sleepy murmurs of other slaves arriving to prepare bread, stew, and warm water for their master's ablutions. Women slaves served in countless roles. Some were household maids, sweeping mosaics, scrubbing marble walls with oil and pumice stone, polishing bronze lamps until they gleamed. Others prepared perfumes, crushing herbs and flowers into oils with carved wooden pestles, their hands stained. Faintly with lavender or rosemary, imagine her slender fingers weaving hair into elaborate braids for the mistress of the house. Each movement is precise and practiced, her own hair tied back simply, unnoticed. The mistress sits before a polished bronze mirror, frowning slightly at imperfections only she sees, while the slave's fingers continue their work with silent efficiency. In the atrium, female slaves carry baskets of folded linen, airing them in morning sun before storing them in cedar-lined chests. The faint scent of wood mingles with the freshness of clean cloth, a simple comfort within endless tasks. Some women served as wet nurses, nursing their master's infants alongside their own children if allowed to keep them. Their lives intertwined with the households they served, though they remained forever at its margins. Others worked in textile workshops, spinning wool into fine thread upon wooden spindles, or weaving cloth upon upright looms that creaked softly. In the cool shade of workrooms, the gentle clack of loom weights tapping together created a calming rhythm, blending with the murmured conversations of women bent over their weaving, for those chosen as concubines. Life was more complex. They might receive finer clothing, perfumes, and occasional jewels to adorn themselves. Yet their position was always precarious, dependent entirely upon the master's favor. Often resented by the mistress of the house, and viewed with quiet, pitied by fellow slaves at night, after a day of quiet labors, they returned to their sleeping quarters. Their women whispered prayers to gods of their homeland, or to Roman deities adopted over time. Juno for protection, Venus for small graces, or Lares for silent guardianship. Imagine them lying side by side upon straw mats, listening to the distant barking of street dogs, the creak of roof beams cooling after a hot day, and the hushed breathing of other slaves. Dreams came quietly, dreams of childhood homes, of open fields and cool rivers, of freedom that felt more like a memory than a hope. Breathe deeply now, as you imagine their silent endurance, their graceful labor, and the lives they wove. Softly into the fabric of Roman society, unnoticed yet essential, their days marked by small kindnesses and quiet suffering beneath the grandeur of empire. And now, let us journey forward in the quiet lives of those who managed to step beyond slavery, to a world both freer and yet forever marked by their past. Imagine a dawn much like any other in Rome, but for one man, this day is different. He kneels before his master in a small household shrine. An iron ring is being removed from his neck. A wooden staff, the vindicta, is touched lightly upon his head. Words of manumission are spoken in calm, measured Latin. In that moment, he becomes a freedman. He rises, feeling the iron's absence like a sudden lightness around his shoulders. Yet freedom, though sweet, brings both opportunity and burden. Freedmen became Roman citizens, though with limitations. They could not hold high public office, but they could marry, own property, and build businesses. Many continued working for their former masters as clients, bound by gratitude and obligation, providing services, votes, or craft expertise in return for protection and continued patronage. Imagine a freedman walking through the bustling forum at midday. He wears a simple wool tunic slightly finer than those of common laborers. In his calloused hands, he carries a wax tablet upon which he tracks transactions, payments for olive oil sold from his small shop near the Subura, or debts owed for amphorae delivered to an innkeeper near the Circus Maximus. Some freedmen became wealthy, running bakeries, bathhouses, or shipping businesses along the Tiber. They employed other slaves and even owned small estates outside the city walls, where olive trees shimmered silver in the sun and vineyards stretched across gentle slopes. Others opened taverns, their days filled with the scent of spiced wine, roasted chickpeas, and the hum of conversation from travelers and merchants resting before continuing their journeys. Despite these successes, their status was always marked by origin. In formal gatherings, senators and equestrians saw them as lesser, men who could never erase the stain of past servitude. Yet within their own communities, freedmen built networks of mutual support, sponsoring each other's children, forming guilds of bakers, potters, or cloth merchants that gathered for feasts and religious festivals. Imagine a small household shrine within a freedman's home. The flickering lamp illuminates painted images of Mercury, god of commerce, and Liber, god of freedom. Offerings of fruit, bread, and garlands lie before the images. Here, each morning, he kneels in gratitude for the life he has built beyond bondage, his quiet prayers carrying hope that his children, born free, will rise beyond the limits imposed upon him. At night, he sits upon a wooden stool outside his home, listening to the distant songs of slaves returning to their quarters, the calls of vendors packing up their wares, and the hum of Rome settling into sleep. He breathes deeply of the cool evening air, scented with laurel smoke and ripening figs. Though freedom is imperfect, it is freedom nonetheless. Let your breathing soften now. As you reflect upon these lives, men and women who rose from chains, to build quiet legacies beneath Rome's vast and silent stars, let us continue. Turning now to the silent city of Pompeii, frozen in time beneath layers of ash and pumice, to explore its hidden rooms and daily artifacts that whisper gentle stories of ordinary Roman life. Imagine walking along a narrow street paved with dark basalt stones, their surfaces smooth beneath your sandals. Oh, the sun rises slowly, casting golden light upon painted shop fronts and carved marble fountains. Where water once flowed in quiet trickles, you enter a small bakery. The room is dim and cool, its thick walls holding the night's chill. Against one side sits a large stone mill, a circular trough in which a donkey or slave once turned the upper grinding stone day after day. Imagine the rhythmic scrape of stone upon stone, the scent of ground wheat filling the air like warm dust, and the soft bray of a donkey waiting for its morning feed of chaff and fig leaves. Nearby stands a clay oven, its wide mouth blackened with soot. Loaves of bread were baked here each dawn, their crusts thick and crisp, stamped with seals indicating the baker's name. Some carbonized loaves discovered centuries later remain perfectly round, their cracked surfaces a silent echo of breakfast long lost. Leaving the bakery, you slip into a tavern. Clay amphorae lean against plaster walls painted with faded red panels. Wooden shelves hold small ceramic cups and bronze ladles used to mix wine with water. Imagine patrons sitting upon stone benches, eating bowls of lentil stew or chickpea mash, speaking softly of market prices, chariot races, and family news. Down another narrow alley lies a thermopolium, a street food shop. Its marble counter is embedded with deep terracotta jars that once held olives and brine, spicy sausages, salted fish, and stewed vegetables fragrant with garlic and coriander. The jars are smooth to the touch, their rims worn from years of ladles. Scraping out portions for hurried customers, continue walking, and you find yourself within a grand domus. Here, hidden rooms reveal the quiet luxury of Pompeii's wealthiest. The triclinium, or dining room, is painted with scenes of Bacchic revelry, satyrs dancing with nymphs among grapevines heavy with fruit. Bronze oil lamps hang from the ceiling, their chains dark with age. Along the mosaic floor lies small bone, dice forgotten after an evening game. In the peristyle garden, ivy creeps along marble columns. A bronze statue of Venus stands near a shallow pool, water once rippling softly around her feet. Terracotta pots overflow with rosemary, mint, and lavender, releasing a calming fragrance as breeze rustles through shaded walkways. Within bedrooms, frescoes remain vivid with intimate scenes, lovers embracing, women arranging hair before, Polished bronze mirrors, cupids playing among flower garlands. Small chests contain glass perfume bottles, their translucent colors of deep blue and emerald green, still catching light from open shutters. Imagine the quietness of these rooms now. Silent for 2,000 years, yet each brush stroke, each carved lamp, each worn doorstep preserves the rhythm of a city that woke one morning to go about its day, unaware of the mountain's looming fury. Breathe deeply as you picture the calm. Simplicity of these hidden rooms, the mingled scents of bread, wine, and rosemary, the flicker of oil lamps upon painted walls. A peaceful world paused forever beneath silent Ashdod, and now. Let us leave the quiet, buried city and drift into a place of warmth, steam, and gentle ritual, the Roman bathhouse, where body and mind found daily renewal. Imagine approaching the baths at dawn. Marble columns rise before you, framing bronze. Doors polished to a soft glow. The air is cool outside, but within lies warmth, fragrant with burning incense and aromatic oils. Upon entering, you step first into the apoditerium, the changing room. Wooden benches line the walls and niches carved into plaster-holed tunics and sandals. Slaves stand ready to assist, untying cords and folding garments neatly away. The sound of voices murmuring greetings echoes softly, blending with the splash of water from deeper chambers. From here, you walk into the tepidarium, the warm room. Its air is pleasantly heated by hypocausts, raised floors beneath which fires burn steadily, sending warmth upward through stone tiles. Mosaics underfoot depict dolphins leaping among curling waves, their curved forms smooth and cool against your soles. Here, you pause to adjust, letting muscles relax and skin warm gently. Next comes the caldarium, the hot room. Steam curls in pale clouds from a large sunken bath of heated water. Marble benches line the walls, warm to the touch, inviting bathers to recline and sweat out the fatigue of daily labors. Imagine sinking slowly into the water, its heat enveloping you, easing stiffness from shoulders and lower back. The faint scent of pine resin and myrtle oil drifts upon the humid air as attendants add handfuls of crushed herbs to the bath. Here, bathers rub scented oils upon their skin, olive oil mixed with lavender or rose before scraping it away, with small curved metal strigils, removing sweat and dirt to leave skin smooth and clean.
Ow!
The gentle scraping sounds mingle with quiet conversation.
Ow.
Afterwards, you move to the frigidarium, the abdetta, cold room. A plunge into the cool pool awakens the senses, leaving the skin tingling and refreshed. Overhead, a small oculus lets in a shaft of pale light, illuminating water that ripples softly as bathers move through its quiet depths. Finally, some rest. Upon stone benches, in the palestra, the open-air exercise yard adjacent to the baths. Here, beneath a sky fading into evening hues, men stretch upon their backs, breathing deeply of the cooling air, scented with laurel trees lining the courtyard. Imagine leaving the baths as dusk descends. Your body feels warm, clean, and lightly, scented with lavender and olive oil. Streets beyond are quiet, shadows deepening between marble columns as oil lamps flicker to life along tiled pathways. Breathe slowly now. As you carry this peaceful sensation within you, the gentle heat of caldarium, the freshness of frigidarium, and the tranquil rhythm of Roman bathing. A daily ritual that soothed minds and bodies beneath the silent gaze of gods carved into ancient stone. Let us continue. Into a quieter, more contemplative realm of Roman life, the world of philosophy and poetry, where minds drifted gently among words. Logic and verse beneath shaded colonnast. Imagine this late morning in the villa of a wealthy Roman senator. Beyond the peristyle garden, columns frame an open walkway where sunlight filters through vines heavy with ripening grapes. Slaves move silently, sweeping fallen petals and refreshing clay lamps with fragrant olive oil. Within a study lined with polished cedar shelves, scrolls rest in neat rows. Some are marked with red cords, copies of Cicero's speeches or Seneca's. Letters, others bear simple wax seals, containing personal notes or legal records. Upon a carved wooden table rests an open scroll of Virgil's Aeneid, its neat script illuminated by soft golden light streaming through lattice shutters. Imagine the master of the house sitting upon a low stool, sandals tucked beneath his robe. As he reads aloud to his friends, his voice is calm and measured, carrying the cadences of ancient verse: Arma, virumque, cano, Troii, quae primus, Aboris. The others listen quietly, nodding in appreciation at each elegant turn of phrase. Each image of ships drifting upon wind-dark seas or heroes weeping beside silent pyres. Outside, a dove coos softly from the tiled roof, and the faint scent of rosewater drifts upon warm breezes. After the reading, conversation turns to philosophy. A guest quotes Seneca: "We suffer more often in imagination than in reality." The words settle over the gathering like a calming blanket, their truth resonating among minds weary from political debates or family obligations. They speak of stoicism, how to master anger, accept fate with dignity, and find tranquility in simplicity. Each phrase is delivered softly, like a gentle ripple upon quiet water, leaving space between words for reflection. Another guest recites lines from Horace extolling the fleeting sweetness of life. Carpe diem, qual minimum credula postero sees. The day, trusting as little as possible in tomorrow. Imagine the quiet agreement that follows, the slow nods, the soft sighs of understanding, the rustle of linen tunics against polished benches, the muted clink of clay cups being refilled with watered wine, and the distant murmur of slaves preparing midday meals blend into a soothing symphony of daily life. In the corner, a young boy practices his writing upon a wax tablet, stylus scratching softly as he copies lines of Cicero's wisdom about friendship and duty. The repetition comforts him. Each careful letter, a small step towards future oration and respect among peers. As the sun reaches its zenith, the conversation quiets. Guests rise slowly, robes whispering along mosaic floors, to move towards the triclinium, where lunch awaits. Fresh bread dipped in olive oil, lentil soup fragrant with garlic and thyme, and sweet figs glistening with honey. Breathe deeply now, as you imagine this tranquil morning of words and thought, where minds wandered gently through philosophy and poetry, seeking calmness, clarity, and quiet dignity beneath Rome's timeless sky. And now, let us conclude our journey with a final immersion, a full day in the life of a Roman senator whose power and privilege flowed within a strict rhythm of duty and luxury. Imagine the soft gray light before dawn. The senator wakes upon a low wooden bed, its frame carved with laurel motifs, its mattress stuffed with wool and covered in linen sheets. Slaves stand ready to assist him in washing with warm scented water, pouring it gently from bronze ewers into a shallow basin. The steam carries hints of rosemary and crushed bay leaves, clearing sleep from his senses. He dresses in a fresh tunic and a pure white toga, its heavy wool draped carefully over his left shoulder, the folds arranged by slaves trained in the art of dignified presentation. Sandals of soft leather are strapped to his feet, their soles smooth from years of careful polishing. Stepping into the atrium, he greets his household clients. These are freedmen and poorer citizens who gather each morning to pay respects, seek favors, or offer small services in exchange for protection. Imagine their quiet voices as they murmur greetings and petitions, the air filled with the faint fragrance of beeswax from polished marble floors. After addressing their needs with calm authority, he moves through shaded streets to the forum. The journey is accompanied by bodyguards and scribes who carry tablets and styluses, ready to record his decisions or observations. In the Senate House, he takes his seat upon a carved wooden bench. The stone walls echo softly with speeches as senators debate matters of grain distribution, military campaigns, or temple construction. His face remains composed, his voice low but firm when called upon to speak. The debates are slow and formal, punctuated by respectful pauses and gestures of assent or dissent. By midday, the senator returns home for the prondrum, a light lunch of bread, cheese, olives, and figs, eaten while reclining upon a cushioned couch. Soft music drifts through the dining room, the gentle notes of a reed flute played by a young slave seated near the painted walls depicting Apollo and the Muses in the afternoon, as he might stroll through his gardens. Imagine stone pathways, shaded by tall cypress trees, fountains bubbling softly into marble basins, and the distant hum of bees moving among lavender and rosemary bushes. Here he reflects upon philosophy, reads letters from allies, or dictates responses to scribes seated cross-legged upon mosaic floors as dusk falls. Preparations begin for the cena, the evening feast. Guests arrive dressed in fine tunics, their hair scented with myrrh oil. They recline upon couches arranged around a low table. Slaves move quietly, offering trays of roasted game, honeyed dormice, deep red Falernian wine mixed with fragrant spices. Conversation flows with gentle ease, touching upon poetry, politics, and the philosophies of Stoics and Epicureans. Lamps flicker upon bronze stands, casting a warm glow across painted ceilings and gleaming silver cups. Finally, the feast ends. Guests depart into the quiet Roman night, their sandals tapping upon stone streets under skies studded with bright stars. The senator withdraws to his sleeping chamber, where slaves endrape his heavy toga and lay it neatly upon a cedar chest. Imagine him lying upon his bed, eyes closing slowly, breathing deep and calm. Beyond his open shutters, the faint scent of laurel drifts upon cool breezes, and the distant hush of Rome settling into sleep carries him gently into dreams. Let us continue, exploring another quiet yet deeply telling part of slave life in ancient Rome, their daily diet. Imagine, at the first light of dawn, slipping through small, high windows of a Roman kitchen. The air is still cool, carrying faint scents of wood ash and damp clay jars. A household slave rises from her straw mat, rubs sleep from her eyes, and moves quickly to prepare breakfast for her masters. But what does she eat herself? For most slaves, meals were simple, repetitive, and sparse. Imagine sitting upon a low, wooden stool holding a coarse clay bowl filled with pulse, a barley porridge boiled with water and a pinch of salt. Sometimes it is flavored with chopped leeks or onions, their pungent aroma filling the small kitchen with warmth and sharpness. Bread was a staple. Slaves ate coarse dark loaves, baked with ground barley or spelt, sometimes mixed with chaff or bean flour to make it stretch further. The crust is hard, the interior dense, filling the stomach with heaviness that brings short-lived energy for long hours of labor. Field slaves, on rural estates, often received rations of broad beans, chickpeas, or lentils. Imagine a midday meal of boiled lentils mixed with garlic and sprinkled with cheap vinegar, the temps cutting through earthy flavors. A thin piece of salted fish might be added if the estate was near the coast, its scent strong and briny, mingling with sweat and dust under the noon sun. Drinks were equally simple, usually pasca, a mixture of water and sour wine vinegar. Imagine sipping this thin tart liquid from a plain cup, the taste puckering your tongue yet quenching thirst better than plain water during long hours of fieldwork under a burning sun. On special occasions, Saturnalia or certain feast days, masters might distribute small gifts of figs, olives, or leftover cuts of meat. Imagine the quiet joy among slaves as they gather in the kitchen at dusk, sharing a small dish of stewed goat or chicken broth rich with herbs, flavors so rare they remain in memory long after the meal is finished. But such meals were infrequent. Most days passed with little variety, pulses, coarse bread, pasca. Each bite was fuel, nothing more. Yet within that simplicity lay silent endurance, each grain and bean sustaining lives spent in service, each mouthful a quiet ritual of survival beneath Rome's grandeur. Breathe deeply now, and imagine the rhythm of these humble meals, the rough feel of barley bread between fingers, the warmth of lentil stew filling the belly, the sour bite of pasca easing parched throats after long hours under a merciless sun. Asterisk and now, let us drift gently into moments of rare respite within the lives of Roman slaves, moments of entertainment and quiet joy that brightened the monotony of their days. Imagine, night has fallen upon a rural estate. The fields lie silent under moonlight, olive trees casting long shadows upon dry soil. In a small courtyard near the slave quarters, a few men and women gather after their evening meal. The air is cool, scented with crushed thyme and wood smoke drifting lazily from dying kitchen fires. Here, in the flickering glow of an oil lamp, one man produces a small wooden flute. Its notes are soft and low, weaving a gentle melody through the quiet night. Others sit cross-legged, eyes half closed, letting the music wash over their tired minds, carrying them back to memories of distant homelands, forests of Thrace, green hills of Gaul, the rocky coasts of Africa. Another slave begins to sing. Her voice is husky from hours bending over laundry basins. But in song, it takes on a sweetness that hushes quiet conversation around her. The song tells of love lost, of rivers flowing endlessly to the sea, of freedom that feels like a dream glimpsed just before dawn. Stories were also a cherished entertainment. Imagine children gathering around an elderly slave, their eyes wide with sleepiness and wonder as he tells tales of gods and heroes. Jupiter casting thunder from Olympus, Mars riding into battle with his spear gleaming, Venus rising from foam. With laughter upon her lips, his voice is low and rhythmic, soothing as it carries them gently into sleep. During certain festivals, such as Saturnalia, masters granted slaves a temporary relaxation of duties. Some allowed slaves to dine with them, or at least enjoy generous rations and small tokens, a clay figurine, a handful of walnuts, a woolen scarf dyed with plant colors. Imagine the laughter in slave quarters during these brief festivals. Dice games played upon clay tiles, bowls of figs passed around, cups of sweetened wine raising spirits high before returning to quiet labors the following dawn. Some slaves, especially those born in cities, might attend public spectacles if their masters permitted plays in the theater, comedic mimes mocking local politicians, or distant views of chariot races within the roaring Circus Maximus. Imagine standing among crowds, feeling the rumble of thousands of voices chanting names of favorite charioteers. Dust swirling in golden sunlight as wheels spin and whips upon galloping horses. But most entertainment was created among themselves. Music from reeds and bone pipes, dance in lamplight shadows, quiet conversation beside sleeping children, and stories told again and again until they felt like home. Breathe deeply now, as you imagine these moments of gentle respite, the haunting notes of a wooden flute, the warmth of shared laughter, the soft comfort of familiar tales whispered into night's quiet embrace. Asterisk, let us continue, and turn our calm gaze now to the simple, humble garments that clothed the bodies of Roman slaves, garments that told silent stories of status, labor, and identity. Imagine, early morning in the dim sleeping quarters of an urban domus. A young female slave rises from her straw mat and reaches for her tunic folded neatly upon a low wooden chest. The fabric is coarse linen, woven loosely from unbleached flax. Its color is a muted off-white or dusty brown. It's holding the faint scent of wood smoke and the earthy oils used to soften the fibers. For most slaves, clothing was practical and plain. The basic garment was the tunica, a simple knee-length shift. For men, or an ankle-length version for women, fastened at the shoulders with small bronze or bone pins. Wealthier households might provide slaves with woolen tunics in colder months, dyed with plant-based browns or yellows to disguise stains from daily labor. Imagine a male field slave dressing in his tunic, tying it at the waist with a thick wool cord. His feet are bare in summer, calloused from walking upon rocky fields, but in winter he wears rough sandals made of leather scraps, the thin soles quickly worn through by muddy vineyard rows. Hair for both male and female slaves was kept, short or simply bound. Women might braid theirs into a single plait down the back, tied with a linen strip. Men's hair was often clipped close to the head for practicality and hygiene. Jewelry was rare, except for iron slave collars worn by fugitives, caught and punished, bearing inscriptions such as "I have run away," "Hold me," turn me to my master. For household slaves with trusted positions, maids, wet nurses, or secretaries, masters might grant small bronze earrings or simple beads upon leather cords as both adornment and mark of ownership. Imagine washing your tunic in the household. Laundry area, a stone basin with cold water, mixed with ashes or fermented urine to clean tough stains. Your hands ache from kneading wet fabric against rough stone, fingers red and raw from lies biting alkalinity. After washing, tunics are hung upon wooden poles in the courtyard, drying in the sun while olive branches crackle in nearby cooking. Fires in winter, slaves layered cloaks, sagum or pianula, thick woolen wraps fastened with bronze fibulae. The cloaks are heavy upon tired shoulders, but shield the body from chilly winds blowing down. Roman streets are across open farmlands. At dusk, after long hours of toil, tunics are folded and laid near sleeping mats to be worn again the next dawn. The rough weave carries the scent of sweat, earth, olive oil, and wood smoke, a quiet testament to lives spent in endless service beneath Rome's unyielding grandeur. Breathe deeply now, and imagine the feel of coarse linen against skin, the soft slap of leather sandals upon stone floors, and the silent dignity woven into every humble thread of a slave's daily garment. Now, let us leave the silent corridors of villas and return to the open fields, to the boundless stretches of farmland where the majority of Roman slaves spent their entire lives. Imagine dawn upon a latifundium, a vast agricultural estate. Stretching across rolling hills near Capua, the air is crisp with morning dew, carrying the sharp, clean scent of moist soil, wild herbs crushed underfoot, and distant wood smoke rising from simple brick hearths. Slaves here wake long before sunrise. Their beds are simple reed mats laid upon packed earth floors within stone. Barracks. They rise silently, rolling up bedding and fastening tunics quickly in the half-light. Outside, torches flicker in the pre-dawn darkness as overseers gather tools, iron hoes, wooden rakes, sickles with rough handles worn smooth by countless hands. Field work begins as first light spills across the land in pale gold. Imagine walking, barefoot upon cold soil, feeling sharp pebbles dig into your soles as you move towards rows of wheat, barley, or spelt. Your task may be to weed between sprouting stalks, bending over for hours with your back bowed to the earth, or to carry water from distant wells, the clay jars biting painfully into your shoulders with each heavy step. In vineyards, slaves prune gnarled vines in winter's chill, fingers stiff and red, or harvest plump grapes in autumn, sticky juice dripping down forearms as baskets fill. With purple clusters, fragrant with sweetness and early fermentation, on olive plantations, imagine raking fallen olives from dry grass beneath silver-green trees, their leaves rustling softly in warm breezes. Large wicker baskets are filled and carried to stone presses, where strong men turn wooden beams to squeeze thick green oil that pools into clay amphorae. Ready for transport to cities. Livestock slaves rise with dawn to milk goats or sheep there, hands working rhythmically in dim barns where the smell of straw, dung, and warm animal skin mingles into an earthy balm that soothes the weary mind. Others herd pigs into oak groves to fatten on fallen acorns, the soft grunt and snuffle of snouts rooting among dry leaves blending with the quiet. Breeze rustling through tall branches. Meals are brief, coarse barley bread dipped in salted water or sour wine vinegar, eaten squatting beneath thin shade before returning to endless rows of crops beneath a merciless midday sun. At dusk, tools are cleaned and stacked, barracks swept, and bodies washed with cold water ladled from open troughs. The evening air carries the scent of fresh-turned soil, crushed olive leaves, distant hearth smoke as darkness settles softly over the land. Imagine lying upon your reed mat at night, your body aching with quiet heaviness, your mind drifting into dreams of green hills, silent forests, or warm hearths left behind in forgotten homelands. Above, stars flicker in cold clarity, watching silently over lives spent in rhythm with soil, harvest, and the silent endurance of unending toil. Breathe deeply now, as you feel the calm constancy of these lives. Bent backs, calloused hands, silent dawns, and quiet dusks beneath an empire that thrived upon their endless labor. Asterisk, let us continue. Into a quieter chapter of resistance, often overshadowed by Spartacus, yet woven deeply into the fabric of Roman history. Other slave rebellions that flickered briefly before being subdued. Imagine. The early morning mists curling over olive groves in Sicily. The year is 135 BCE, decades before Spartacus's rebellion. Here begins the first servile war, led by a slave named Eunice. Eunice was Syrian, brought to Sicily's fertile estates as a household slave. Known for his charisma and claimed prophetic visions, he gathered fellow slaves around him. Imagine them meeting under moonlight, crouched among twisted olive trunks, listening to his soft, confident voice, promising freedom and a kingdom where no man would command another. Soon, these whispers turned into action. Slaves rose against overseers, seizing iron tools, torches, and whatever weapons they could find. Villas were stormed, storehouses opened, and chains broken. Their rebellion spread quickly, thousands joining from nearby estates. Each step forward driven by silent years of hardship. Eunice declared himself king, minting coins and establishing a brief court. But Rome's retribution was swift. Legions marched upon Sicily, and after fierce battles, the rebels were defeated. Eunice was captured, dying in prison, his dream fading into the quiet soil beneath the olive trees. Decades later, a second servile war erupted, again in Sicily, led by a slave named Salvius, who called himself Tryphon after a Syrian monarch. Imagine. Rebels gathering under banners depicting Eastern gods. Their camps filled with men and women cooking lentil stews over smoky fires. Children playing among stacked shields and spears. For 4 years, they resisted Rome's power until finally crushed. Their leaders executed, and survivors returned to toil or chains. These rebellions were not rare. Small insurrections sparked within city latifundia, mining camps, and quarries. Most were quelled quickly, unrecorded by historians, their names lost to time. But each uprising whispered a quiet truth that under Rome's silent marble grandeur pulsed a constant tension, carried upon the weary backs of those who labored unseen. Breathe deeply now. As you imagine flickering torches in moonlit olive groves, the murmured oaths of rebels, and the brief taste of freedom before dawn rose upon their silent fields once more. Asterisk, and now, let us drift softly into the realm of faith, the spiritual lives of Roman slaves, where silent prayers and small rituals offered comfort beneath lives of servitude. Imagine, household slave rising before dawn to begin sweeping marble floors. As she passes the lararium, the small household shrine set into an alcove of the atrium, she pauses briefly. Within its painted walls stand figurines of the Lares and Penates, household gods, guarding prosperity and hearth. She bows her head, whispering a quiet prayer. Grant peace to this house. 8. And strength to serve with patience today. 4. Many slaves, religious life intertwined with duty. Some adopted the gods of their masters, offering oil or grain at household altars, learning rituals by observation. The smoke of incense curling upwards carried both their master's prayers and their own prayers for health, safety, and lighter burdens. Others clung to gods of their homelands. Imagine a Thracian stable slave at dusk, squatting near the donkey pens, murmuring prayers to horse spirits of his native plains, or a Syrian maidservant kneeling by her sleeping mat, whispering to a tar goddess. The mother goddess of her youth, asking protection for her children, sold away to another household in large estates. Slaves gathered in small groups at night to share. Folk songs that told stories of gods and spirits, the moon goddess riding silver chariots, river gods weaving water weeds into fishnets, earth deities sleeping beneath fields of barley and spelled. Festivals like Saturnalia brought a rare sense of inversion and spiritual joy. Slaves donned caps of freedom called pileus, dined with masters, or among themselves laughed freely, and felt the warmth of human dignity. If only for a fleeting day before the quiet rhythm of service resumed, imagine standing in a temple courtyard. As a festival procession passes by, drums beat softly, Flutes sing lilting melodies, and incense fills the warm air with hints of frankincense and myrrh. Slaves among the crowd stand slightly apart, eyes closed, letting music and fragrance wash over weary minds, lifting them briefly into a realm beyond toil. At night, within silent barracks, prayers continued, whispered into straw pillows carried, into dreams where gods walked plains and forests of memory, offering blessings of protection and the quiet hope of freedom in life or in death. Breathe deeply now. As you imagine these prayers drifting upwards like smoke, carrying gentle hopes, beyond marble ceilings, into silent Roman skies scattered with stars. Let us continue. Into a realm of rules and quiet hopes, the legal status of Roman slaves, and the process of manumission by which a life in chains might end in freedom. Imagine. A busy Roman forum at midday, the sun high and hot upon paved. Stones. Among merchants selling honey cakes and bronze trinkets, you see a small group gathered before a magistrate. At their center kneels a middle-aged man, his linen tunic faded by years of kitchen smoke and labor. This is a manumission ceremony. Under Roman law, slaves were considered property, lacking legal personhood. They could not marry legally owned property or initiate court cases. They existed within their master's household as part of its wealth, alongside land, livestock, and stores of grain. Yet Rome, it's practical and hierarchical, created paths to freedom. A master might free a slave out of gratitude, affection, or reward for loyalty. Others freed slaves within their wills, granting manumission upon their death as a final act of generosity or religious duty. The process was formal, asking the master to declare his intent. The slave kneels quietly. A vindicta, a ceremonial staff, is touched lightly upon his head. The master might say, "I wish this man to be free, according to my right and power." With those words, the slave rises as a libertus, a freedman. He gains Roman citizenship, though with limitations. Freedmen could not hold high public office, but they could marry, own property, run businesses, and leave inheritances to their children. Many continued working for former masters as clients, bound by ties of gratitude and duty. Some built successful lives as merchants, bakers, or ship captains, their children born free and unmarked by servitude. Imagine the feelings within the newly freed slave, the soft rush of relief. Mingled with uncertainty, the forum bustles. Around him as he walks away, bare feet scuffing dust from hot stone roads, the smell of olive oil and roasting chickpeas drifting in the air. The first time, he walks not as property, but as a man bearing his own name, able to choose his path under Rome's vast sky. Breathe deeply now, and reflect upon this quiet transformation from property to personhood, from silence to a voice that could speak freely, even within the limits that society still imposed. Asterisk, and now. Let us drift into the quieter chambers of Roman villas, where knowledge itself was carried in the minds of slaves. Not all slaves labored in fields or kitchens. Some were highly educated Greeks, Syrians, or North Africans captured in conquest, or sold into bondage despite their wisdom. Masters valued them not for strong backs, but for sharp minds and calm eloquence. Imagine a cool study within a marble villa. Shelves lined with scrolls emit a faint scent of papyrus and cedar oil. At a small wooden table sits a slave teacher, a pedagogus instructing his master's children in grammar and rhetoric. His tunic is simple, but his voice is steady, reciting Latin and Greek verses with quiet precision. Children repeat softly after him, their small voices mingling, with birdsong drifting through lattice windows. Beyond the classroom, some slaves served as secretaries, taking dictation upon wax tablets. Imagine the scratch of a bronze stylus upon smooth wax, as letters form neat flowing lines. Their ears remain attentive to the master's words. Minds trained to remember complex legal clauses or diplomatic phrasing without error. In large households and merchant enterprises, slaves acted as accountants, keeping records of grain stores, amphory shipments, or estate incomes. They counted with small polished stones upon wooden abacuses, their fingers moving quickly in practiced rhythm as merchants called out prices and weights. Their memory held sums, dates, and debts owed with silent accuracy, ensuring wealth flowed efficiently through marble halls and along crowded docks. Despite their intelligence and responsibility, these slaves remained property. Their scrolls were not their own. Their knowledge served others. Yet within this quiet intellectual labor, some found a measure of dignity and hope. Skilled, literate slaves were often granted manumission, allowing them to become tutors, scribes, or lawyers in freedom, respected for talents that no chain could diminish. Imagine dusk falling upon the study. The lamp's soft glow flickers upon scrolls tied with crimson cords. The pedagogus rolls away tablets, his work done for the day. He sits quietly for a moment, breathing in the mingled scents of ink, cedar, and olive oil, before rising to return. To a simple evening meal and a straw mat laid upon cool stone, breathe deeply now. As you picture these silent scholars, moving unseen among marble columns, their knowledge flowing like calm streams through the heart of Rome's grandeur, let us continue. Into one of the darkest corners of Roman slave life, the mines deep within mountains and hillsides, where sunlight rarely touched human skin. Imagine dawn breaking upon rocky hills near the silver mines of Hispania. Cold winds sweep dust across sparse shrubs, rattling dry branches in a silent prelude to the day's harshness. In narrow stone barracks carved into hillsides, slaves awaken upon straw mats laid upon cold earth. They rise silently, shoulders stiff, eyes swollen from sleep, never deep enough to heal aching muscles. Thin wool tunics offer little warmth against morning chill as they gather by mine entrances. Where overseers wait with iron-tipped staffs and cold eyes, the mines are tunnels carved into bedrock. Narrow and dark, lit only by flickering oil lamps hung from wooden posts. Imagine crawling upon hands and knees through passages scarcely wider than your own shoulders. The stone damp and rough beneath fingertips. The work is relentless. Slaves chip away at rock faces with iron picks, loosened or falling into baskets woven from reeds. The air is thick with dust, heavy and dry upon the tongue, filling nostrils with the metallic scent of freshly broken stone. Mingled with oil smoke from dim lamps, breathing grows difficult as hours pass. Some tunnels flood with underground springs, leaving cold black water pooling around knees and thighs. Others grow stifling hot, the still air cloying upon sweating skin. The only sounds are distant hammer strikes, faint coughing, and the quiet scrape of baskets sliding across stone as they are dragged toward shafts, where other slaves haul them to surface. Meals are brief barley bread dipped in vinegar water, eaten squatting upon damp rock before resuming toil. At dusk, the tunnels echo with the quiet shuffle of weary feet, retreating into darkness, emerging at last into cold evening air. Backs bent, hands raw and blistered, they walk slowly back to barracks beneath a sky blazing with indifferent stars. Imagine lying down upon your mat, the scent of stone, dust thick in hair and skin, muscles twitching with exhaustion. Sleep comes swiftly, a heavy darkness mirroring the tunnels below. Breathe deeply now. Picture the silent rhythm of the mine's pick striking stone. Dust rising in golden lamplight, and quiet hearts enduring each endless day beneath Rome's empire. Asterisk now. Let us drift from the darkness of mines to the bright flickering torches of theaters and arenas, where slaves became actors, performers, and sources of amusement for Rome's restless populace. Imagine the great theater of Pompey. In Rome, marble columns towering above tiered stone seats filled with chattering spectators. The air is warm, scented with rose petals crushed underfoot, and the faint pungency of incense burned at nearby shrines. Backstage. In dim dressing chambers lined with bronze mirrors, slave actors prepare for a performance. Their faces are painted with natural pigments, white chalk for gods, red ochre for kings, black soot for comedic fools. Wigs of curled horsehair or dyed wool rest upon wooden stands, ready to crown them with illusion. Some wear masks of thin carved wood. Painted with exaggerated expressions, wide staring eyes for tragedy, laughing mouths for farce. These masks are held before faces, tied with leather thongs, their hollow interiors warm against skin as actors breathe in scent of old paint and sweat. Imagine stepping onto the stage, sandals tapping upon polished wood as the audience hushes. The play begins. Voices rise in rhythmic verse, words echoing beneath curved stone awnings. Slave actors recite with calm clarity, moving their hands in precise gestures taught by older performers in comedic mimes. They dance with playful exaggeration, earning laughter from crowded seats. In tragedies, they declaim lines of sorrow and fate, their hearts quietly aligned with themes of bondage and destiny. Despite fame among common people, actors remained in fames of low status, unworthy of honor beyond. Applause. For slave performers, fame brought no freedom, only longer days of rehearsals, heavier costumes, and the unchanging reality of belonging to another. At dusk, after final bows, torches are extinguished. Costumes are folded, masks cleaned and oiled. Actors slip from personas back into silent servitude. Walking home through quiet streets under a crescent moon, breathe deeply now. As you imagine painted masks resting upon wooden stands, empty eyes gazing silently into darkness, each telling stories performed for others, whispered into the quiet hours before dawn. Asterisk, let us continue. Into the sacred realm of ritual, where slaves played hidden yet essential roles in Roman sacrifices and ceremonies. Imagine the grand temple of Jupiter upon the Capitoline Hill, its tall white columns gleaming in morning light. The air hums with the low chanting of priests, scented with thick coils of frankincense and freshly cut laurel branches. Near the temple steps stand silent rows of slaves. Some carry heavy bronze vessels filled with wine and honeyed milk. Hold baskets of flower petals, their colors vivid against simple linen tunics. A select few stand beside the sacrificial altar, trained in assisting the pontifices. When a bull or sheep is led to the altar, slaves help pour libations of wine onto its head, their hands steady as cool liquid trickles down smooth horns. They hold the animal's lead rope as priests murmur prayers in slow rhythmic Latin, asking gods for favor, a successful harvest, victory in war, safe births within patrician families. After the sacrifice, slaves skin and butcher the animal, with calm precision, their bronze knives slicing through warm hide and muscle. Meat is cooked for communal feasts or distributed to temples, while hides are cleaned and cured for ritual garments or drum coverings. Imagine rinsing blood from marble. Steps with buckets of water scented lightly with bay leaves. The faint metallic scent lingers, mingling with smoke drifting skyward from smoldering altars at dusk ritual's end. Slaves fold ceremonial robes, clean bronze instruments, and sweep scattered petals from stone floors. They move silently beneath, massive columns casting long shadows across cooling pavements. Their labors unseen yet vital to the rhythms of Rome's spiritual life. Breathe deeply now. As you picture this quiet, ordered world, the murmured prayers, flickering torches, silent figures tending sacred spaces beneath an empire's unblinking gods. Asterisk finally. Let us drift into a gentler realm, the games and learning of slave children, whose short moments of joy existed amid lives of silent service. Imagine the inner courtyard of a domus at mid-morning. Sunlight pools upon mosaic tiles, reflecting gold and amber across painted walls. Near the kitchen entrance, a young slave boy squats beside his master's son. Their heads bend together over small clay figurines shaped like goats, pigs, and horses. They play quietly, arranging animals into lines, creating miniature farms and pastures upon dusty tiles. The boy's eyes gleam with momentary happiness as he mimics shepherd calls, making his master's son laugh. Other children play nuts or knucklebones, tossing and catching small pieces with swift, skilled fingers, counting softly in Latin or in their native tongues whispered beneath breath. Their laughter is hushed, aware of overseer's presence. Learning mingles with play, The pedagogus teaches them letters scratched upon wax tablets with bronze styluses, each curve and stroke carefully practiced. Slave children watch silently, absorbing knowledge by observation, though rarely allowed to hold styluses themselves. Imagine evening falling, cool shadows stretching across courtyards. Children sit quietly upon straw mats, sharing roasted chickpeas from a clay bowl, their small hands dusty and dry. A girl hums a lullaby from her mother's homeland, tune rising gently into darkening air, softening hearts weary from long hours. Of silent obedience, breathe deeply now. As you imagine these fleeting joys, simple games upon mosaic floors, whispered songs beneath fading light, and the quiet rhythm of small lives spent weaving moments of wonder into each enduring day. Let us continue. Into the humid, echoing chambers of Roman bathhouses, where slaves worked silently to maintain the tranquility and order that free citizens enjoyed. Imagine the tepidarium glowing with golden lamplight, steam curling lazily, towards a ceiling painted with sea creatures and curling vines. Slaves move barefoot upon warm mosaic floors, carrying bronze ewers filled with perfumed water. Some slaves work as bath attendants, holding fresh linen towels for patrons stepping from the caldarium. Others massage scented oils into tired shoulders, their fingers pressing gently into tense muscles, moving in practiced soothing motions. Near the entrance, boys sweep fallen petals scattered as offerings to Venus, gathering them into woven reed baskets. Imagine the faint rustle of petals upon tiles, blending with the soft splash of water and quiet murmurs of men reclining upon stone benches at dusk. When bathers depart, slaves scrub stone floors with olive oil soap, their hands red from warm water, voices hushed beneath flickering torchlight. Breathe deeply now, and imagine the gentle heat of these chambers, the scent of lavender oil rising from bronze bowls, and the silent, calm service of slaves ensuring peace and comfort for all who entered. And now, let us drift along the stone roads of the empire, following slaves who served as messengers and couriers. Imagine a dawn tinged with pale rose hues over the Via Appia. A young slave in a short wool tunic walks swiftly along paved roads, leather sandals slapping softly upon smooth stones still, damp with morning dew. In his hand he carries a small wax tablet wrapped in cloth, sealed with his master's insignia. His journey may take hours or days, passing fields of ripening wheat, quiet olive groves shimmering silver green in early light, and small shrines, where he pauses briefly to murmur a prayer for safe travel at villas along the way. He delivers messages to other masters, scribes, or stewards, bowing his head respectfully before departing again, footsteps fading into quiet distances lined with cypress trees and silent milestones. Breathe deeply now as you imagine his calm, purposeful steps carrying words between lives, weaving silent threads of communication beneath Rome's vast, unbroken sky. Let us continue to the bustling harbors where slaves toiled in shipyards building vessels that carried Rome's power across seas. Imagine the creak of timber beams lifted by pulleys, the sharp scent of fresh-cut pine mingled with brine drifting from nearby docks. Slaves work in teams, scraping barnacles from hulls, hammering bronze nails into planks, and sealing seams with heated pitch. Their bodies glisten with sweat under the noon sun, backs bending rhythmically as they plane wood or coil thick ropes. Of hempen rush, at midday, they rest upon low stone benches, eating barley bread with dried figs, sea wind cooling sweat-damp tunics, while gulls cry overhead. Breathe deeply now, and hear the steady hammering echoing through cavernous docks, the quiet murmur of tired voices, and the rhythmic flow of unseen labor beneath the empire's maritime grandeur. Now, let us drift into the quiet, incense-scented chambers of Roman hospitals and healing sanctuaries, where slaves served as assistants to physicians. Imagine small healing room lined with clay jars of dried herbs, lavender, thyme, oregano, poppy. A physician dictates calmly while a slave grinds herbs upon a stone mortar, the soft crunch of leaves and seeds mingling with the faint bubbling of bronze pots brewing decoctions. Other slaves prepare compresses, soaking linen strips in warm wine, infused with rosemary, gently pressing them to wounds of patients reclining upon wooden couches. They sweep tiled floors with damp cloths scented lightly with vinegar, keeping chambers clean and free of flies. Their voices remain quiet, movements measured and calm, as healing prayers drift softly through high windows open to olive groves beyond. Breathe deeply now. Imagine this hushed world of healing, where slaves labored not with iron or plows, but with gentle hands and silent compassion beneath gods of health and mercy. Asterisk, finally. Let us drift into the solemn streets of Rome, where funerary processions wound slowly through morning mists. Imagine the muffled beat of funeral drums echoing between tall insulate. Slaves walk at the front, carrying flickering oil lamps and bronze incense burners. The scent of burning myrrh curls into cool dawn air, mingling with faint rose water poured upon stone pavements by mourners following behind. Some slaves sing quiet laments in rhythmic Latin, their voices rising and falling, like waves lapping upon distant shores. Others carry painted death masks of ancestors, their carved wooden faces solemn and dim, 2RCHLIGHT. At the tomb, slaves arrange offerings, loaves of barley bread, wine, honey cakes, and wreaths of laurel or cypress placed upon simple altars. As final gifts to the departed, breathe deeply now as you imagine their steady steps, soft laments, and silent dignity carrying souls towards rest beneath the quiet marble shadows of Rome's necropolises. Let us continue. Drifting now to the sun-bleached landscapes where Roman slaves labored in stone quarries, carving the empire's grandeur from silent cliffs. Imagine dawn upon a limestone hillside near Luna. The first pale light reveals rough-hewn cliffs, rising above olive groves and cypress rows. The air is cold before sunrise. It's filled with the earthy scent of crushed stone and dew-damp dust. Slaves rise from straw mats laid beneath temporary shelters of wood beams and linen cloths. Their bodies ache from yesterday's labors, shoulders tight, palms blistered and raw. They tie rough wool belts around tunics, lift iron chisels and wooden mallets, and begin their climb up steep, uneven paths etched into the quarry walls. At the cliff face, overseers assign each man his task. Imagine standing upon a narrow ledge, cold morning winds brushing against sunburned skin, hammering a chisel into pale stone. Each strike sends sharp flakes scattering into the breeze, the rhythm merging with distant calls of crows wheeling high above. By midday, the sun blazes down, turning pale limestone blinding white. Heat radiates from the cliffs, making breath come heavy and salty upon dry tongues. Sweat darkens tunics, dripping down backs into the rough weave of cloth. Dust clings to eyelashes and hair, turning skin as pale as the marble blocks cut from mountainsides. Imagine breaking for a brief meal, coarse bread,
Olives.
brined with thyme and sour pasca to wash away stone dust lodged in your throat. Men squat upon shaded ledges, eyes closed against the dazzling sun. The only sounds the whisper of hot breeze through scrub pines and the quiet sighs of tired bodies. Then the work resumes. Locks are split, with wooden wedges soaked in water, swelling and cracking rock with quiet, inexorable force. Slaves guide ropes around the massive slabs, sliding them onto log rollers to be dragged down switchback paths towards waiting ox carts. At dusk, the pale cliffs glow gold beneath a softening sky. Tools are gathered, dust brushed from tunics. Slaves descend slowly, knees trembling, footsteps silent upon sun-warmed stone. Night falls with a hush, the sky deepening to violet scattered with faint stars, while cooling breezes carry away the day's bitter dust. Breathe deeply now. You imagine the quiet eternity of these quarries, the rhythmic strike of hammer upon chisel, the scent of crushed limestone, and the silent dignity of lives carved into each stone block that built temples, theaters, and tombs for a restless empire. Asterisk. Let us continue. Into the shaded marble halls of Rome, where slaves served as personal attendants, shadows moving silently beside their masters. Imagine, early morning, within a patrician villa. The sky beyond arched windows is pale lavender, the air cool with dew rising from quiet gardens. A personal slave or service pedicsequus wakes before his master, lighting small oil lamps and placing them upon polished bronze stands. He prepares warm water scented with bay leaves for washing, folding linen towels beside an ivory comb laid upon a cedar chest. The faint fragrance of beeswax polish rises from marble floors as he sweeps away night's settled dust, moving with silent precision. When his master wakes, he helps him dress, draping soft wool tunics over bare shoulders, adjusting folds with gentle hands. Sandals are tied securely, knots firm yet comfortable for hours of walking upon stone streets. Throughout the day, the attendant carries wax tablets, styluses, and small purses of coins, walking a half step behind, head bowed. Ready to note instructions or pay merchants in crowded forums, imagine the quiet rustle of tunic hems brushing mosaic floors, the faint clink of bronze coins within leather pouches at meals. He pours watered wine into glass cups, the liquid catching lamplight in soft ripples. He stands nearby as guests speak. A philosophy in trade, listening without speaking, present yet unseen. A silent witness to each flickering moment of conversation. At night, he helps undress his master, folding garments neatly upon cedar shelves, extinguishing lamps one by one until darkness fills the quiet chamber. Only the faint scent of olive oil and beeswax remains as he retreats to his small sleeping space near the outer corridor. Breathe deeply now. Imagine the soft footsteps of these attendants, the gentle movements of skilled hands serving with silent dignity through each hour of Rome's unending days. Asterisk, let us continue. Into the echoing streets where religious processions wound their solemn way, accompanied by silent rows of slaves. Imagine midday sun blazing upon Rome's wide paved roads. The smell of crushed rosemary branches strewn before the procession rises with heat, mingling with wafts of burning frankincense from bronze censers. Priests in white wool robes chant hymns to Jupiter and Mars, their voices measured and deep. Behind them walk slaves carrying sacred objects, bronze statuettes, ivory ritual implements, painted masks of gods. Some hold tall wooden poles draped with embroidered banners, their arms aching beneath weight and sun, yet their footsteps remain steady upon hot stone. Others scatter petals from woven baskets, bright red and purple blossoms drifting, like silent blessings upon gathered crowds lining the streets. The procession moves slowly towards grand temples, passing under triumphal arches where shadows provide brief coolness. Children watch wide-eyed from marble porticos as slaves move past, eyes lowered, faces calm despite heat and haste. At the temple, slaves assist priests in preparing offerings, arranging loaves of honey cake upon altars, pouring milk and wine into shallow libation bowls, and wiping marble surfaces clean with linen cloths, scented lightly with laurel oil. Imagine dusk falling as the final prayers are offered. Slaves gather spent petals and fold embroidered banners into cedar chests, the quiet rustle of cloth blending with soft murmurs of departing worshippers. Breathe deeply now as you imagine these measured footsteps, the warm press of banners against shoulders, and the calm dignity carried within each silent movement, upholding the spiritual rhythms of Rome. Asterisk now. Let us drift into earthy, clay-scented workshops where slaves labored shaping vessels that carried oil, wine, and water across the empire. Imagine a low brick workshop at dawn, oil lamps flickering upon rows of unbaked amphory lining packed earth floors. The air is heavy with moisture and the metallic temps of damp clay. Slaves kneel beside large clay vats, scooping heavy red earth into wicker baskets before carrying them to potters' wheels. At their wheels, slaves spin clay with swift, steady feet, hands guiding each rising shape into tall amphory or wide, shallow dishes. The wet clay glides beneath fingertips, cool and sticky, carrying the faint scent of rain-soaked soil. Imagine rows of drying vessels placed upon wooden racks, faint gray steam rising as the sun warms their damp surfaces. Their slaves prepare. Kilns stacking amphory within domed brick chambers, feeding small fires with olive wood and straw, the flames crackling softly, casting dancing shadows upon stone walls. At midday, the slaves pause for a simple meal of barley bread and olives, sitting upon warm brick steps, breathing in the mingled scents of wood smoke and freshly turned clay as dusk falls. Fired amphorae are carried outside to cool in quiet evening air. The slaves wash clay from hands in wooden basins, their fingers wrinkled and raw from hours immersed in earth's yielding embrace. Breathe deeply now. As you imagine the soft glide of clay beneath hands, the rhythmic spin of wheels upon stone, floors, and the silent creation of vessels that traveled beyond horizon's edge, carrying oil, wine, and Rome's enduring legacy. Asterisk finally. Let us drift into green, shaded spaces where slaves tended gardens, creating quiet beauty within marble walls. Imagine. Early morning mist, resting lightly upon rosemary bushes and lavender rows. A garden slave walks barefoot upon dew-chilled mosaic pathways, carrying bronze pruning shears worn smooth from years of use. He trims laurel hedges into neat cubes, each cut releasing the clean, sharp scent of green wood. Near fountains where water falls in soft ripples, he weeds among violets and wild thyme, the moist soil crumbling easily between skilled fingers. Birdsong rises with the sun, goldfinches flitting among cypress branches as he rakes gravel pathways into gentle wave patterns, the wooden rake teeth leaving silent artistry upon pale stone. At midday he waters terracotta pots of figs, lemons, and dwarf pines, pouring cool water that darkens dry soil, releasing faint fragrances of earth, citrus, and resin into warm, still air. Imagine dusk falling as he gathers fallen petals beneath rose bushes, blooming deep crimson in twilight's fading light. Lamps are lit along colonnades, casting golden pools upon garden edges, while the slave stores tools within clay-tiled sheds and rests beneath an olive tree, breathing deeply of cool night breezes scented with lavender and ripe figs. Breathe deeply now as you imagine these quiet green spaces, the rhythmic snip of shears, the rustle of laurel leaves, and the silent devotion carried within each careful act of tending life and beauty beneath Rome's timeless sky. And now, as we come to the end of this long and gentle journey through ancient Rome, take a moment to breathe deeply, feeling the quiet stillness settling softly around you. Tonight you have walked among stone quarries at dawn, felt the rhythmic glide of clay upon potter's wheels, smelled lavender blooming in silent gardens, and heard the hushed laments of funeral processions fading into marble shadows. You glimpsed the lives of countless souls, men and women who labored, unseen, whose days flowed in simple, unbroken rhythms beneath the vastness of empire. Their footsteps have faded from stone roads, their voices long silent. Yet their presence endures within each amphora, unearthed from buried kitchens. Each chisel mark upon temple columns, each olive tree still growing upon ancient soil. As you rest now, let these images settle lightly within your mind, like drifting petals upon calm water. Know that you are here in your own warm room, breathing softly beneath a quiet sky. Their world has passed into memory, but tonight it has kept you company, whispering its stories to guide you gently into sleep. Feel your body relax, your breath deepen, your thoughts slow and soften as darkness wraps around you with calm and silent kindness. May your dreams tonight be peaceful, carried upon distant echoes of a world long gone, where dawn always returns, quiet hearts endure beneath timeless stars. Good night.